We are 1 week into New York Football Giants training camp. Some guys have already done their best to make themselves noticed. Other guys still need to step up. If you were there, I'd love to know what you guys thought. But first, we're going to get a perspective from one of the NFL's national correspondents. It's all next, coming up on the Big Blue Breakdown Live. Hi again, everybody. I'm Paul Dottino, and welcome to the Big Blue Breakdown Live as we come to you at our regular time slot, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday nights. I don't want to waste any time with our first guest because you know him from the Football Game Plan and from CBS Sports HQ. He is one of the national NFL analysts who has taken the time to actually visit Giants camp. He's been at practice. He has watched what the Giants are putting on the field. And his name, of course, is Emory Hunt. Emory, great to see you tonight. Thanks for taking the time.
Always a pleasure to be on the show, PD, man. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Well, Emory, as I just introduced, the fact that you have been at camp, so many national folks, people like, I saw a column last week, the New York Giants, we ranked them 27th in starting lineups in the National Football League. I look at that stuff and I say, you know what? It's really nice that this guy hasn't set foot on the property, hasn't seen anything that's going on during the offseason or during the practices, has absolutely no idea what these rookies look like or the attitude adjustment that the Giants have. You've been there. You've seen what's going on a daily basis. I know you feel better about the team than those people do. But I don't want to box you into a corner. I want you to speak for yourself.
Well, listen, I tweeted out a couple of weeks ago, maybe a few days, maybe a week ago, that the vibes are different at Giants camp. And it's mostly talking about, from the coaching staff to the players. It feels like no one is walking on eggshells. But I feel like that's attributed to the type of players they brought in, i.e. the quarterbacks in Russell Wilson and also Jameis Winston, before you even get to the rookie Jackson Dart. It's the fact that Wilson and Winston raised the floor. So now people will start to see how good the receiving core is. And then when you have a quarterback that can kind of make the right decisions, that has been in the game, that has won a Super Bowl, that has, in my opinion, is the first ballot Hall of Famer in Russell Wilson. He was in his prime, he was putting up the same numbers that Aaron Rodgers was putting up. And now at his age, the mind is still 25 years old. And that's all that counts when you're out there on the football field, because now he's making good decisions and keeping the offense on pace. Before you even get to the defense, the front seven of the defense is going to be a problem. And the only concerns I have about the Giants right now is depth at corner, because I love the safeties. I love what Nubin has done so far. I love what Holland has done so far. I do like what they have at the nickelback in Drew Phillips, but you worry about the outside corners. Adebo has looked solid. Banks is competing, and he's trying to stay locked in mentally in terms of, going from 1 to 2 to 3 to back to 1. So I like how they're working that. But when we're talking about the front seven and the offense being able to run the ball, be efficient in the passing game with the element of the big play, this is a team that's going to be competitive in each and every game this season.
I think we all know the quarterback is still the most important guy on the field, and the Giants' quarterback room has been messy for the last 2 years. You mentioned Russell Wilson. Obviously, you have great admiration for him, and I agree with you. I think he's going to wind up being a Hall of Famer as well. The question, though, that a lot of people have is, well, it went bad in Pittsburgh at the end of last year. They let him go. Nobody else signed him. He must not have very much left. You and I have watched him. He could still make all the throws.
I mean, the one throw that comes to mind was the deep ball he threw to Malik Neighbors, where he didn't break stride and just kind of ran underneath the rainbow for a touchdown against Adebo. And here's the thing with Russ, man. It's funny. I'm glad you brought that up, because watching Russ live here, a day in, day out at practice, you start to think like, man, maybe the stuff we heard out of Denver and or out of Pittsburgh was kind of misleading. And I was saying this all last season during the year, like, hey, don't put the focus on Russ and Justin Fields. The real smoke should be on Arthur Smith's play calling and how limited they were in the passing game in terms of the play design. We're seeing a more diverse passing game with the Giants that we didn't see with the Steelers, and Russ is playing accordingly. And when you go back and look at what he did in Denver, you know, what, 26 touchdowns, 9 picks, something like that. He didn't play bad. We knew that was just a bad team. And now that we know what went on behind the scenes, he probably should have won MVP that year, considering what he was dealing with, right? So I think Russ can still play. Now, granted, the RPMs on the velocity is not the same as it was when he was 25 to 28 years old, whatnot.
Nor are the legs. Let's not kid ourselves.
Exactly. I was about to say
our legs aren't as good as they were either.
Bingo. He can no longer spin out like he used to in his heyday. So he's got to play a little bit more. So that's why I said the mind is 25 years old and not the physical body, but it's good enough. And if you're Brian Daboll, you are a little bit more relaxed out there because you can coach to win games while develop your first round pick in Jackson Dart behind the scenes. And we're seeing him do exactly that. We're seeing him get reps with the twos. And all of that is important because imagine if there was no Russell Wilson and there was no Jameis Winston and you drafted Dart and you're trying to get him to start week one. The whole situation would look a lot different, be a lot more stressful. This is the ideal situation. And I also said this, I think this is the best crop. And we talked about this after the draft. This is the best crop of draft picks and undrafted free agents Joe Schoen has gotten in one offseason.
Yeah, no question. Well, why don't we go right to the 2 first-round picks, Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart. Now, to make sure people understand, there have been 2 fully padded practices so far, and they were both thud practices. No full tackling. They're not going full bore. Thud practices. So there's hard contact, but that's about it. They got to wrap up, and they're not supposed to do anything else. So it is limited. It is early. But so far, I'd like to get your impressions of both of the first rounders.
I like how, there's no visual drop off when Dart is playing with the 2s or 3s, right? He doesn't look like a disaster. And that's a good thing. And so you're glad that he's able to has a floor, and maybe we're watching his floor right now. So that's a good sign that, hey, at least we know he can go in there and kind of operate the offense, which is what you want if you're Brian Daboll. And then you have something to build the foundation upon because you know what the floor is. And so we'll see more of if this is the real floor or if there is a lower once the preseason games start, when things get live and he can get hit. But right now, I like where the floor is. And Abdul Carter, I made this comparison where, football at the collegiate level, the wide hash marks, you could spread guys out and you could kind of see where the pressure is coming from and you could kind of pick apart defenses, right? The NFL, the hash marks are closer. The entire game is played in the middle. But when you have an Abdul Carter, Thibodeau, and Burns, it's almost like they're playing on an arena football field because it gets even smaller because they cover so much ground. And Abdul, it's funny because when we were looking at Abdul Carter, we're looking at a guy that, we know what to expect because we saw him play hand in the dirt and off ball back. We didn't know about that with Micah Parsons because people also forget he sat out 1 year in college before he got to the NFL. Right. So last time we saw him play college football, he was playing stand-up linebacker. Then he sat out the next year. Then he went to the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. And so with Carter, we saw both. So now we know if they want to getting 3 guys on the field at the same time is not a problem because he could play stand-up linebacker and probably blitz from the A or B gap or drop back in short zone coverage because he's used to doing that because he did it in college, and or he could get out there and just rush the passer as well. So
and we've seen him lining up in all different spots.
Right. And that's the other part too, and he's winning in different ways. We've seen him win with power and we've seen him win with finesse. And I think the fact that he can come in now, unlike Kayvon Thibodeau, where he was coming in and having to be the starter and be the linchpin up front. He can come in. There's 2 vets right now, Thibodeau and Burns. So he could really come in and learn on the job and do the one thing he does really well and hammer that home until he grows into a more refined role. So I like the fact that they have that along with Dexter Lawrence. And when Darius Alexander gets up to speed, that's another option that they have along that defensive line. So it kind of protects what we're talking about with the cornerbacks in that sense. So I think this team, because, and I've said this before too, I want to make sure I make this point. When previously you see one side of the ball at Giants camp just dominate. Either one day it's just
Mhm.
offense just obliterate the defense, or the next day the defense just obliterates the offense, right? And it makes for a bad practice. But what we're seeing now is offense wins a rep, defense wins a rep. It's a little bit of tug and war going, and that's showing you that iron sharpens iron. And you like to see that because you want to see both sides get wins. You don't want to see one side just
Absolutely.
dominating consistently. And I think we're seeing a good team building process right now for Big Blue.
I think the other headline, or the other major question, let me not say headline, that's on most Giants fans' minds, and certainly, again, the outside perception is so much different than what we're seeing on the field, is this offensive line. People say, well, the Giants didn't really add a lot of pieces on offense. Obviously, Cam Scatterboo, we talked about him at the draft. That's
Mhm.
a nice piece, okay? That's a real nice piece. But the offensive line, look, it may wind up being the same starting five that it was opening day last year, or maybe Evan Neal actually becomes one of those starting guards. What are you seeing so far?
I love where Evan Neal's head is at. And I asked him that question the other day at practice about mentally, is he there? How is he coming into the season mentally? He's like, man, I'm healthy. That was the first thing he said, which lets you know he wasn't healthy previously. And when you are not healthy and you are reading the newspaper clippings and everyone's blaming you for the reason why we're losing, you, Evan Neal, is the reason why we're losing all these games, right? And it's hard to kind of, he's a young guy, right? So it's hard to kind of separate what's legitimate criticism and what's BS, and without letting people know, hey man, I'm not healthy. And so you just compounding an issue. Now he's fully healthy. You kick him down inside. The good thing about him, they've been cross-trained at Alabama. He's played multiple positions up front, so this is an easier fit for him. And now you have your best five out there, because we know Andrew Thomas is going to be a guy. We quietly, we haven't heard much about JMS. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because that means he's doing his job. And also you have Evan Neal progressing in Luminor. And then the surprise has been James Hudson and how well he has performed in camp so far, showing some energy. So it helps build depth at that position. So I think the offensive line, with better quarterback play that knows how to get the ball out, will make this group look better. And also, we're seeing, sustained success on the ground. So they're run blocking really well, to where we're seeing, Tracy rip off a lot of runs at practice.
Yeah.
Um, and also Scatterboo getting there, seeing the cutback lane and then ripping off runs. So you like that the offensive line is doing a good job against this defensive front.
Yeah, Scatterboo is looking more and more like a really great value in that draft. I got to be honest with you. And I know he hasn't been involved in tackling yet. We've got to see the preseason games. But even Brian Burns was saying to us the other day, and you were there, Emory, he's like, I really want to see this guy going up against the tackler. It seemed like Brian wanted to try to take on the challenge of tackling Scatterboo himself.
That's what I love about Brian Burns, because he says what's on his mind. He says what everybody's thinking. I also love how Burns said, "Listen," because we all had the same thought when he got banged up the other day. Like, why the hell is my defensive been 65 yards down the field? He was like, well, if I can't make the tackle, I can't then say, you know what I'm saying? Hey, you got to make
Right.
that tackle. So I love where his head's at. And he's right. Until, because as a former running back, I hated these thud practices, because I want to make sure if I lower my shoulder, you have a chance to tackle me. So when I run over you, you can't say, "Oh, it was a third practice, man." Like, nah, no, this is full go. So I get the frustration, but I'm glad that we're seeing Scatterbo really kind of, try to make a name for himself against this defense.
I want to ask you before you go, because I know we're kind of running out a little short on time here. I want to ask you about Jalen Hyatt, because if he should somehow click the switch and blossom into the receiver that the Giants took in the third round 3 years ago, this offense is going to be a whole lot more explosive. And yet, We think we saw something in the spring and in the OTAs, but then he wound up getting a little bit nicked up here in the last week, and we haven't been able to see anything in recent days. What do you think needs to happen to get him to be the guy that they drafted?
Health, number one, and opportunity. And the good part about the two quarterbacks that are ahead on the depth chart, they're going to give you the opportunity. We know Jameis works touchdown to check down, right? Jameis is trying to push the ball deep down the field. We know Russ, if he and this is what I noticed about Russ at practice so far. When he sees it, they make the little signal, and then it's like, hey, oh, you got one-on-one? I'm gonna give you a shot. I'm gonna put it up top. And when you have the run game popping like they've been able to pop some runs, but you're running the football effectively, now when off play action, now you could take that shot deep down the field. And guys like Hyatt, we've seen before in the NFL, like you've seen a guy like a Robert Meacham or Devery Henderson, those type of guys, hey, you may only do one thing really well, but that one thing is gonna end up with us getting 5 or 6 touchdowns within the offense if you just do the one thing you do well, right? So,
well, also when you're the fourth receiver,
right. So now you think with someone with that level of speed going up against a third or fourth corner who's probably not as fast. Most defenses, most secondaries only have maybe 2 guys that can run, maybe 2. Giants have 3 guys that can run at receiver: Neighbors, Slayton, and Hyatt. So somebody's going to be able to win the track meet. And Hyatt, if he just stays locked in and goes through, I would hope he's leaning more so on Slayton to see how he got through on the other and got out on the other side, to where Slayton has now become a focal point of the passing game and a team leader, because Hyatt, I think, can follow that same trajectory.
All right, we got just a couple of minutes left with Emory Hunt from CBS Sports HQ and the football game plan. Emory, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who is the 1 or 2 breakout players that you're seeing on this Giants team that nobody's talking about right now? Maybe it's a young rookie, or maybe it's a second or third year player, or maybe it's even a veteran who you think might just suddenly start to improve and take on a larger role.
I'll give you an offensive and defensive guy, Paul. Offensively, Theo Johnson. I haven't seen no one nationally talk about Theo Johnson. And I think that's going to be the bridge between Russell Wilson and the deep game. And he could be flexed out and do a lot of different things creatively. He's thicker now. He's blocking well. I think Theo Johnson is going to be a significant part of this offense. And on defense, I'm super excited about what Tyler Nubin can bring to the table. He's been flying around the football. Every time I look up, he's around the football, whether that's in the run game or in a passing game. And I think bringing Javon Holland over allows Nubin to be more of that roaming type player, and he's going to make a lot of plays on the football. So I think Nubin for one, and Theo Johnson on the other side.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Johnson, because he came off that broken foot at the end of last season. And so far, in what we've seen, no residue. He looks like he's moving as fluidly as he was before. And you're right. I think he can make some big plays for this team.
Absolutely. And I like how the tight end room looks as a whole, because now you have a healthy Theo Johnson. You have Dulcich, who is underrated. Yeah, he was banged up a lot in Denver. That's the sneaky.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned him, Emory, because he was a teammate of Russell Wilson's with the Broncos, and I know Wilson likes him, and he has been very productive during this offseason program catching the football.
Yes, and that's the one. If he's healthy, that's the move piece, and then you could kind of bring Thomas Fadone on slowly. So I love the fact that they got 3 guys in that tight end room that could be weapons in the passing game. But Johnson and Dulcich, I think, helps this offense just expand a little bit more this season.
That is Emory Hunt from the Football Game Plan and CBS Sports HQ. Emory, it's always good to see you out at practice. I look forward to chatting with you again, and I appreciate your time tonight joining us on the program.
Appreciate you, Paul. Look forward to seeing you out there. We'll be sweating as brothers once again.
Would you want it any other way?
Right.
Be good, my man.
You too, P.
Take care. Oh, my. I tell you, I love talking ball with Emory, because, he is one of those guys who takes the time to come out And I think that's what bothers me about a lot of what I've seen in the national media is that we're all guilty of it to some degree, right? You go into a new season, and the first thing you do is say, okay, let me open up my memory banks. What did I see from that team last year? All right, who'd they lose? Who'd they gain? And who are the new draft choices? Well, usually, as people compute that equation, 90% of that equation is what they remember and saw last year. They saw a Giants team that won 3 games last year. Is it any wonder that a national columnist from one of the national sports networks decides to put the Giants as the 27th starting lineup in the league? Because he's overemphasizing what he saw last year or what he read last year or the stats he looked at last year that said they were a 3-win team. Of course, he doesn't understand all the circumstances that got them there, nor does he understand of the true, real-life developments and improvements that this team has been taking on a daily basis during the offseason. Folks, the football Giants have a brutal schedule, an absolutely brutal schedule this season. I'm not going to go out on a limb and tell you they're going to win 9 or 10 games and be in the playoffs. I won't do that. I won't give you a projected record until their final 53-man roster is set and they're going into opening day against the Washington Commanders. But here's what I do know, and you guys just heard Emory Hunt, national NFL analyst with CBS Sports HQ, okay? He's got a national reputation. He played college ball. He's telling you about all the stuff that he likes, position by position. The Giants have upgraded almost every unit on the roster. This is a much more talented team. It is a much better roster. How many games will they win? Right now, I'm not even going to think about a guess. But you'd be foolish. You'd be foolish if you truly digested the 90-man roster that they have now and came up with the conclusion that this is going to be a bottom feeder team. Yes, when the record comes out at the end of the season, they may not have a winning record. I just don't know what their record will be. It may not be a winning record, but it'll be a heck of a lot closer to 500, I do believe, than what we've seen recently. Because it is a much more talented team. That is not debatable. And anybody who tells you otherwise hasn't set foot on the property and hasn't seen one snap of practice over the course of the previous 7 months. That's a guarantee. Guaranteed. All right. Again, we thank Emory Hunt from Football Game Plan and CBS Sports HQ for joining us on the program tonight. Here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give you guys, because I wanted to let Emory talk. You'll notice I didn't try to influence him a whole lot. I kind of knew where he was going to go because I see him at practice a lot. He does come out a lot to Giants practice. And I did want to give you folks a flavor for I knew he was going to be positive because he's seen it. But I really wanted him to answer. I didn't want to put words in his mouth because there are a lot of folks, and I know, I will always look at the glass half full because I approach my job, I've told you this before on the show, as the head coach or as the GM or as the personnel director. And I try to make sense of what it is that the team has done. I try to see their vision. I try to understand where they believe the high tide will be for what they are putting on the field. Now, I always tell you, this is what the logic says. This is what the plan is. This is what the analysis says can happen. It may not. But no coach, GM, or personnel director goes in saying, we're going to try to fail. We're going to plan to fail. We're going to add these terrible players and terrible pieces because we expect to lose a whole lot of games. Nobody does that. Okay? So understanding that that's never going to be the intent of any coaching staff or any personnel department, I look at what they do. I see what they do. I look at the players they get. I look at how they're performing. I talk to the coaches. I talk to the players. I talk to the personnel people. And I get an understanding over, okay, this is the why, and this is the ceiling that they're looking at. This is what they're hoping for. And then I try to explain to you guys as the conduit, as one of the conduits between the team and the fans, I then try to explain. So you know what? People want to say to me, you're a glass half full guy. You're always optimistic. You're always hopeful. You're always trying to paint a better picture. Well, simply put, what I'm trying to do is find out the reasoning and the rationale behind the things that they've done to try to get better, and then revealing that stuff to you guys. That's what I'm trying to do. And I'm not going to sit here and go, the glass is half empty, and this is terrible, and that's terrible, and this won't work, and this is never going to work, and they don't know what they're doing, because that makes no sense. All of the changes and the improvements that teams make on their roster during the offseason are always meant to improve. So I will simply tell you the explanation for why I think they're doing what they're doing. Sometimes I have to give you an educated guess because sometimes I don't get direct answers. So I've got to take an educated guess based on my knowledge and experience. And other times I'll just pass along what they've said so that you guys can know and hopefully have more enjoyment of the game. And at the same time, I tell this to my closest friends and relatives. At this point in training camp, I look at training camp in a reverse way than most people do. Okay? What I'm looking for more than anything else are red flags. Because again, the intent of everything that's being done is to improve the team. So the things that you want to look for, if you really want to be analytical about the whole thing, is you want to look at each unit and you want to say, okay, is there a player there that can do a solid job? Is there a backup that can do a solid job? Is the whole unit good enough that they can do a solid job? There have been times in the last decade when I've sat at training camp, I've watched these practices, and I've said, okay, I see what they're trying to do. I know what they're trying to do. They thought they had improvements here, there, and the other place, but I can already see there are red flags. They don't have enough corners. They don't have enough safeties. They don't have enough defensive linemen. There are red flags where you say it doesn't matter who they start at those positions. Those guys are not good enough to reasonably compete and give them a chance to be a 500 team or a team with a winning record. That's the way I look at training camp, and I look at the preseason. I look at it in reverse. I'm not looking for, oh, look, that guy made a big play. Oh, he's going to be great. Because it's still preseason. It's more telling and more accurate if you look at camp and you look at the preseason and you look for the negatives. Try to find the negatives. Which players in the starting lineup or which units are not getting the job done? Where you say to yourself, uh-oh, that guy doesn't look like he should be starting. I don't think he can start on a quality team. And I don't think the backup is any better, which means they're going to go into the season with a gaping hole in that spot. I defy any of you who are watching this program right now to tell me if there is a gaping hole in any of the units on the Giants starting lineup right now. Cornerback, safety, linebacker, defensive line. Offensive line, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, quarterbacks, punter, kicker, kick return. Are there truly gaping holes anywhere with red flags flying? Or, and it's fair to say, that in some spots, it's a show-me situation. It's a show-me situation on the offensive line. Is Evan Neal going to step up and seize a starting job at one of the guard spots? We don't know the answer to that right now. He's a show-me player. He has to show me that he can be that guy. Jalen Hyatt is a show-me player. He's got to show me that he can be a dangerous part of a quality wide receiver room. Okay? There are some show-me's on this roster. That's true. But they're not red flags. Okay? Red flags are gaping holes where there is no hope for that player, where it's not going to happen, and the backup is not good enough to challenge him, and that's going to be a hole when the season starts. I can honestly tell you, I don't see red flags right now. I do see some show-me player spots, but I don't see red flags. That in itself tells you, tells me, okay, it doesn't have to tell you if you don't want to believe it. Maybe you've been to practice, maybe you haven't. But if you have, and I've talked to the Brian Baldingers and the Phil Simses and a bunch of Giants legends like Pepper Johnson, Matthias Kiwanuka, Carl Banks, Howard Cross, Keith Elias, Sean O'Hara, Jeff Fiegels. All these guys have been around. Justin Pugh, they've all been around. Prince Amukamara, they've all been around. Tiki Barber. I talk to these guys when they're out and they come out to watch practice. And there seems to be a pretty strong consensus. No red flags right now. No gaping holes. You couldn't say that about the last two editions of this team. You couldn't. Again, some show-me players, but no gaping holes. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to get to your comments now on the chat. And also what I want to do is I'd like to see if any of you folks would like to dial in. There's the link right at the bottom of the screen. You can give me a phone call. You can give me a video call. And I'll be very glad to talk with you. That would be awesome. I love talking to the fans. I like that a heck of a lot better than answering these chats. But a lot of you just want to chat. So that's okay too. We'll take it. Aiden Fink says, good evening, Paul. Good to see you briefly at training camp yesterday. Yes, Aiden, I know you did say hello near the end. I didn't have time to stop and chat, but I do appreciate you sending off a greeting. Thank you. Mark B says, good evening, good people. Of course, good evening, Mark B. I saw Mark B at practice. In fact, we took a picture. There you go. Oh, well, you look great. I don't know about that. I was pretty hot and pretty beaten up by the sun, but I appreciate it. You know, I'm always generous with my time because I love the fans. I'm a conduit to you guys, Mark. You know, that's what I am. Without fans who are interested in the team, there would be no reason for my job to exist. Anyway, you love Emory Hunt. He is top tier. He's a quality gentleman. Knows his football. Played the game in college. Nationally recognized with CBS Sports HQ. That's why I wanted him on the show. He's a national guy who doesn't just look at the Giants' 3 wins last year and say automatically they're going to be El Stinkaroo all over again. He's been there. He has stood next to me at practice and watched. He gets it. He understands. He knows what he sees. I let him talk 20 minutes. He gave you a lot of optimism, didn't he? I didn't put words in his mouth. He told you this is a much improved football team. All right, let's see what else we got here. We're repeating here. My fault. Yeah, there you go, Emory. All right. Mojo Mystic says, Paul in general gives me dopamine. Him talking about my Scatterboo is everything. Oh, he is quite the character. He's already kind of turning into a cult legend, even though he's only been through 1 week of training camp. The fans out in the stands love Scatterboo. And can you blame them? He's something else, man. And then I don't even know how many of those folks, maybe they do. Maybe they're reacting off of the stories. Are they reacting more to his plays on the field? He's making terrific plays. He showed some speed. He showed elusiveness. He showed some power. He showed some catching ability. But there's also the legend at Arizona State. The guy who told his mother, I'm going to wear shoulder pads and ram myself into telephone poles to toughen myself up because I like to hit and get physical. I mean, is that the reason why fans love Scatterboo? Is it his legendary stories? Or is it that they really love what they see on the field? I'm not sure right now, but I agree with Brian Burns. I can't wait to see him in those preseason games. James O'Keefe says, Emory making the rounds. You in demand when you know your stuff. No doubt. Look, folks, I'm in my 43rd season of doing this. I'm not going to bring on somebody who doesn't know their stuff. And I'm not going to bring on somebody who hasn't watched firsthand. Okay? There's enough of people out there that you can read or see who haven't been to Giants camp, who will continue to pontificate about something that they don't know a darn thing about. I bring on a guy who has been there and watched practice. I owe that to you guys. You want truth? I'll give you truth. Mark B says he can listen to Emory talk ball all night. I get you. Aiden Fick says Emory knows his stuff. No wonder he's been a 3-time guest on the program. There you go. Mark B says Emory in high demand. Yeah, James says Tyler Nubin is a dog. How about that? You know, I think the only thing, James, that I'd like to see about Tyler Nubin, when he was with the Minnesota Gophers, he was really good at taking the ball away. And right now, his first season with the Giants, he played extremely well. You know, he didn't make the all-rookie team, which I was disappointed in, but he certainly was among the best rookies in the league. You know, there's a limit. They can only pick so many guys. But he didn't get the turnovers. And that's something that he was really good at when he was in college at Minnesota. So I would like to see Tyler Nubin as he steps up in his second season. I'd love to see him get some more turnovers. But we'll see. Mark B says, thanks, Emory. All right, here we go. Jay Fed says, Dulcich is never healthy. I'd rather not. Well, here's the thing. He's been healthy most of this offseason. I think he might have missed one practice, but he had a good spring. He had a good mini camp. He's had an even better training camp so far. And, you know, he's got really good hands. He's a receiving tight end. Now, you guys know I'm more about the all-around tight ends. But the way this offense is constructed, you know, Theo Johnson is your multi-purpose tight end. Bellinger is a multi-purpose tight end. Fedoni looks like he could be. Rookie 7th-round pick. Not sure right now, how they view his development. We got a few weeks to go. Manhurts, terrific blocker. Best blocker of the bunch. But he's not a two-way tight end. He's a blocker. Dulcich is a receiver. It's a really strong tight end room. And Tracy's the other tight end. Oh man, where am I? I'm forgetting where he came out of. Let me take a look. Where is he? Terry, I'm sorry. Jermaine Terry, my bad. Jermaine Terry out of Oregon State. Averaged over 16 yards a catch last year at Oregon State. Now, there are too many tight ends in the room already. I don't see Jermaine Terry making the team. But here's what I'm going to say. Every time he gets on the field during the course of the offseason, he's made plays. Every time they throw it to him, he catches the ball. He's number 6, right? He's number 6 in the tight end room. Number 6. And I think he's got some ability. Wow. This team's going to cut some good players. That's what happens when you get better. Tight end room is going to be super competition for roster spots, says James O'Keefe. I didn't have to read your note to tell you that, though, did I? This team is very competitive on both sides of the ball. Need to stay healthy. That is true. James, the truth of the matter is, the Giants are a better team. They're a better roster. They have better depth. But they're not so good. They're not so good that they can afford injuries at certain spots. There is no doubt that some spots on this roster are thinner than others. And if they get hurt in those spots, it becomes a significant bruise. For example, do I really need to remind you that this team was 2-3 last season, playing the Cincinnati Bengals at home in a very winnable game when Andrew Thomas got hurt? And how to come out? Tried to fight through, how to come out. They were 2-3 at that moment in time. The offensive line proceeded to crumble after Andrew Thomas left the lineup. And the Giants won one game the rest of the season. Took them all the way to the Indianapolis Colts game to finally put up a really nice showing. Don't we all know that if Andrew Thomas gets hurt, it's going to be a devastating gut punch to this club? Now, the Giants, in free agency, made it a high priority to go get James Hudson as a swing tackle from the Cleveland Browns. He got paid good money as a swing tackle, and they jumped on him quickly. Joe Shane in particular has told us that the primary reason for that is that if Andrew Thomas or Illuminor should go down this year, Thomas has a track record of injuries, there's no doubt. They wanted a guy who would not allow the rest of the line to fall into the gutter. They believe that James Hudson is a competent backup who can hold the fort. Of course, he's not going to be as good as a Thomas, who's an all-pro caliber player. Heck, I don't think he would be as good as Illuminor, who I firmly believe, from watching him play after play last year, had a good season. Okay? Forget about whatever analytics people, you guys, and fantasy football people and whatever put out their nice grades that they talk about all the time. Forget them. As J.J. Watt says, those grades mean nothing. Players laugh at them, they don't believe them. Jermaine Illuminor was a lot better than what these services say he was. I'm not so sure that Hudson, in fact, if he was better than Illuminor, he'd be fighting for a starting job at right tackle. But he's not. So the question becomes, how much of a drop-off is there if one of those two tackles goes down and James Hudson has to play? That was a huge priority for the Giants this offseason. They did not want to fall into a deep crevice in the middle of the Grand Canyon like they did last year if one of those tackles went down. They think that James Hudson is good enough to hold the water back behind the dam. Now, what have we seen so far? He appears like he is that guy. It looks like he's checking that box as a satisfactory third tackle. He's very energetic. He's got a very strong edge to him, as Brian Daboll likes to say. He's always yapping. He's always talking. He's very spicy. He's a fiery dude. And he likes to use that to his advantage. And it's clear he likes to get into the other guy's head as he lines up across from him. He's gotten himself into a couple of abrasive situations already since he came to the Giants during this off-season and training camp situation. So they wanted a dog. They wanted a fighter, so to speak, right? Brian Daboll always talks about dogs, guys who are going to scrap. Hudson is a scrapper. But yes, that would still be a position that I would really not want to see get hit with injury. Not that you ever want to see any position get hit by injury. And you certainly don't want to see Russell Wilson get hurt. Because Jameis Winston, through his 10-plus years in the league, has been incredibly inconsistent. Although I think he can win a couple of games and keep you competitive in a month's play, in a month's time if he has to play. I think the Giants' best chances to win games this year is for Russell Wilson to play the full season. And I know they feel that way too. Mojo Mystic. Healthy seems like it would be good. Do the Giants have a team exorcist on speed dial if and when needed? Are you volunteering? Mark B says, just want to get through camp and preseason with minimal injuries. J Fed says, Gano is a red flag. Can't do another season with a kicker with a bum leg. A kicker with a bum leg is useless. Well, Graham Gano has assured me, and I've talked to him many times during this offseason and during training camp, he has assured me he is 100% and good to go. He has been kicking without issue during the drills. Ball is still coming off his leg with distance and with accuracy. You're right. He's been in the league a long time. He's had injuries each of the last 2 years. Tried to kick while he was hurt, and we saw what that did. So the question that you have to ask yourself, if you're head coach Brian Daboll and or general manager Joe Schoen, you have to ask this. Do we trust his advanced age and his injury history to not be a problem? Because when Graham Gano has kicked for the Giants, he has been terrific. You could honestly say, and it's one of the reasons I believe I think he's in the top 3 highest paid kickers in annual salary right now. top 3 or top 5. He's right up there. The reason he is because he's very good. He also happens to have a strong leg. Very, very, very high accuracy rate from 50 yards and plus. And when you're the Giants and you're trying to get more points on the board because you've had an offense that's been sputtering along for a couple of years, well, you like a field goal kicker who can hit from beyond 50. That's imperative in today's game. You just have to be able to do it. And Gano can do it and do it well. So, J-Fed, the question for Gano is really about his age and his durability. If you believe he can get through that, then you have to have him on this team. If you don't think he can do that, well, then you've got to figure out how you're going to replace him with a kicker who's not only going to be reliable, but also good enough to hit him from 50 plus. Because if you're the Giants, even with the improved offense that we expect to see on the field, you still want to be able to have a kicker who can hit from 50 plus. So that's what you have to weigh. That's what you have to weigh. All right. We're coming up on almost an hour. I'm definitely going to take you to 9. I'll probably go past 9. We might go to 9:30 tonight. We might go 90 minutes. Depends on how you guys are active in the chats and with the phone calls. Aiden says, is the no red flags a concern for you, Paul? It's not a perfect situation by all means. No, Aiden, listen. The Giants have not been good. You know what they say all the time, right? You got to crawl before you can walk and walk before you can run. Right now, the no red flags is a critical litmus test for a team that's trying to get back to the middle of the pack. That's a team that can play 500 ball and be competitive into the holidays. And when I say holidays, I'm not talking about Halloween. No, enough of that. I'm not talking about Thanksgiving. Enough of that. It's time to be competitive and to be mathematically in the race as you approach New Year's. That's the deal. The Giants will have one game in January this year. That's the home season finale against the Dallas Cowboys. I go back to the late owner Wellington Mara, Hall of Famer, who always said his number one priority every season, and he wasn't able to do it with his team every season, but his goal every single year was to make sure, to the best of his ability, that he gave his franchise, an opportunity to still be alive in a playoff race when they kicked it off for the final home game of the season. Because he believed that the fans have a right to come to that game, the last home game of the season, with hope and with something to root for. That's what he always believed. That was Wellington Mara's philosophy. That fans pay good hard money for their tickets, and they should be able to come to an entire season of games, go through the whole slate, and still have a reason to root for their team in the final home game of the season, so that when they take their tickets, in those days they were paper tickets, right? And you went through the gates and they'd rip your ticket stubs. Now all these tickets are on the electronic cell phones, right? Okay, fine, whatever. The point is, He wanted his fans, Giants fans, to go through the stadium gates at their final regular season home game with reason to root, with reason to want to be there, to at least know that they can yell and scream for that team. And there potentially could be something good to come of it. During a lot of those seasons, it didn't happen. We know what the late 60s were like, the mid to late 60s. We know what the early 70s were like. We get it. We get it. Quite honestly, several seasons in the last decade didn't meet that standard either. But that's the standard that Hall of Fame owner Wellington Mara wanted for his team. I don't know for a fact, I'd be foolish to tell you otherwise, that the Giants are going to meet Wellington's standard when they play the Dallas Cowboys in their last regular season game, which happens to be home right after New Year's. I don't know that that will happen, but I will tell you, I believe right now, based on what I'm seeing, you can have some optimism past Thanksgiving. That games past Thanksgiving will still mean something. That is a step, a big step in the right direction. So, Aiden, the no red flags rule right now, yeah. To me, that's a very reasonable litmus test. And one that I think if the Giants can pass it by the time they get to the end of training camp, if we could still say that they've checked all those boxes and there are no red flags, then I'll really feel confident. Really confident. Not just optimistic, not just hopeful, not just I think they can do it, but I'll have a lot of confidence then in telling you that this team can be competitive into December as we approach the holiday season. I don't think right now that that's a huge reach, but let's see how things play out. We got a ways to go yet. Haven't even played a preseason game. Aiden says, was looking for you before practice yesterday. Hopefully you have time to chat next time. Glad you're able to say hi. I was there. I can't say where you were, or I'm always floating around. You'll always see me with my trusty notebook and my pen, and I'm marking down stuff on every snap. This is a fun time for guys like me because I really love the game, just like Emory Hunt does. And we're there for a reason, because we study the game and we learn stuff about these players when we watch them on a daily basis. It's important. It's important. And that accumulation of eyewitness accounts is what then gives you an educated opinion, which is why when most of the writers don't get to see very much during the spring in the off-season program, and when the national writers don't come to visit and see anything, you have to wonder sometimes about how much stock you want to put in those opinions. Kyle Hoos, Giants really need to add a veteran wide receiver, another defensive tackle. Looking forward to being third on the waiver claims. Kyle, you make a great point about being third on the waiver claims. Because the Giants won only 3 games last year, and they are third in the reverse order of standings. Through the first month or so of the season, the Giants will be third on the list of waiver claims. So anybody who gets cut, it's going to pass through in the exact order of the first round of the NFL draft. So yes, if there are some good players available, Giants will probably have a good shot to grab a few of them. So that part's true. Veteran wide receiver, don't see it happening. Right now, the Giants have a slew of undrafted rookie free agents who have actually performed very well during the offseason. It's going to be very difficult for them to make their cuts. They're putting a lot of faith in Jalen Hyatt to step up and be number 4. Number 5 is going to be Emir Smith-Marset, who was outstanding on kickoff returns last year and has been getting a lot more reps this summer as a receiver, in addition to being a kickoff guy. That's 5 right there. Number 6 would have been Bryce Ford-Wheaton because he is the lead gunner coming back from last year. But now he's blown out his Achilles. So that's a no-go. So now what happens? The Giants got to figure out what are they going to do. I think they're going to go out at some point, go outside the roster and get themselves a gunner. And no, not Gunnar Olszewski, the wide receiver who was brought in. He was brought in because he knows the playbook and he can run things effectively without much study during the course of training camp. Whether or not he makes the team, I'm not going to say right now because who knows. But his signing right away was more for simplicity and convenience, I believe, than it was to actually replace Ford-Wheaton on the roster because that is a kick coverage spot. Gunnar Olszewski does not cover kicks. He returns kicks. He does exactly the opposite of what Bryce Ford-Wheaton does. So I don't believe he was brought in specifically to take that slot, although right now he's sitting in it. So if you're going to keep 6 receivers, that 6th receiver is going to have to be a guy who covers kicks. Unless they decide to make the kick coverage guy somebody else from another position. They go out and get somebody else, which means they'll only keep 5 receivers instead of 6 on the 53. So in any event, Kyle, right now, I don't see them bringing in a veteran receiver. They also don't have a whole lot of money. Giants have, about $3 million right now under the salary cap. They don't have much money. They're probably going to have to redo some deals and restructure some deals with their current players with some bonus money to increase their salary cap space. So I would say, unless they get an injury to one of their top 4 receivers, I don't see them even contemplating bringing in a veteran receiver. I just don't. Defensive tackle, don't see that happening either. They are very, very happy. Dexter Lawrence, they've got Darius Alexander, they've got Ray Robertson Harris, who they really, really like very, very much. They like Ledbetter. They like the ability potentially to move Chauncey Golston inside in the sub package as a defensive tackle. No, I would be very surprised if they added another defensive tackle. To me, right now, they're still trying to give reps to all the DTs they have on the roster to see exactly what it is that they have, but they certainly believe they have enough bodies, so I would not expect an addition there. At least not today. Things can always change. They're always fluid till you get to the opening game of the regular season. Oh, New York Giants Maven. Yeah, that's the Sports Illustrated on SI account with Patricia Traynor running it, saying, hey, if you want to give us a call, you certainly can. Video link or audio link. It's right there at the bottom of the screen. Let me get to my... Oh, there he is. There he is, our super chat man. Tudo is back again. He found us once again. Tudo, one of our all-time great regulars, has found us once again. And, man, he's something else. Let's see here. Much respect to our Italian media podcast family, Big Paulie, and all diehard Giants fans in America. Greetings to our entire rugby club currently in northern Italy. Folks, I can't tell you how much we appreciate whenever, and when I say we, I'm talking about anyone who's hosting a show. Anyone who's hosting a show of this nature always appreciates the loyalty of folks who take the time and either, well, obviously Tudo is a very generous individual because he continues to become a super chat member. And by the way, thank you again, Tudo. He continues to do that. And that's incredibly generous, and we do appreciate his super chat as always. But I just want to make it clear. I understand the time. I do. The time commitment that anybody puts into being a fan, especially if you're going to watch or listen to a program. I totally understand it. You have a million things that you can do with your time. You have work, you have families, you have dinner, you have entertainment things to do. Maybe go to a show, go to a concert, play pickleball, who knows? Whatever it is that you'd want to do. I'm sure there's a lot of watch television, right? Watch baseball, whatever. There's a lot of things you could do with your time. Every host who has a program, whether it's on radio or TV or the internet, every single host owes a debt of appreciation and gratitude for everyone who checks out their program, especially those who are loyal to keep coming back time and time and time again. Because you've taken your time, which is valuable to you, to hopefully enhance your enjoyment of the game. That's why I think you're coming back. Look, you're certainly not coming back because we're not passing out, free tickets. We don't have them to give you. We don't have, automobiles like they do on game shows during the day. We don't have automobiles to give away. We don't have travel packages to give away. In fact, we have nothing to give away except knowledge, analysis, opinions, hopefully some fun, all to enhance your enjoyment, hopefully so that you think your time was well spent to be here. So thank you. Thank you, Tudo, and thanks for allowing me to get back on my soapbox for hosts everywhere who have programs. Keith Stith says, how did Darius Alexander look this week? Alexander has done well during the entirety of the offseason. Remember now, he was a bit sore earlier during the mini camp and the OTAs. So he did stuff with the trainers. Watched him with his fluid movements, watched him with his bulk, body type. We've discussed this. Body type along the lines of a Leonard Williams. His game is along the line of a Leonard Williams. He's more of a three-technique defensive tackle than he is a nose tackle, which means his specialty is going to be lining up and going after the quarterback from the inside. He has looked good in one-on-ones. This week, he had a couple of days to go one-on-ones with the offensive line. He looked good. Brian Dable has been very impressed with him. His athleticism, his length, his desire, his motor. Brian said the thing that they're working on him with is working against double teams. Okay? That's what he's got to work on. He's got to work on getting double teamed at this level. Because remember, he came from the University of Toledo, which is not exactly a super powerhouse at the NCAA level. So he's got to work on his double teams. He's also got to work on, quite frankly, making sure that he's got the power quotient for that terrific frame that he's got. He's only a rookie. He'll get stronger. There's no question about that. So he's going to have to get some things down. He is a rookie. He's a third-round pick, right? We get that. But terrific prospect. A terrific prospect who is off to a good start. Brian Dable gave him quite a bit of praise yesterday, and then also said there's certainly things he's got to clean up too. And that's fine. It's funny because I had somebody ask me about him the other day with a tweet. Apparently there were some content creators who were watching from the stands who didn't think he was doing so well. You know, whatever. Again, you get people who have all kinds of various opinions, but the truth of the matter is they're very happy to have him, and he is a rookie in his first NFL training camp. If you expect him to come right out of the box and be Leonard Williams, like right now, well, then you're going to be disappointed because he's not Leonard Williams right now. So to those people who said he disappointed them, you're right. He's not Leonard Williams right now. Okay, you can be disappointed if you like. But if you're realistic, right now, the thumbs up on him. Good player, good prospect. All right, let's see. Where did we leave off here? I got a little bit lost in my chats. That's another reason I don't like these chats. I'd rather take phone calls. Gary Gaston, hi P. Dot. Do you think undrafted rookie free agent Bo Collins has a shot to make the 53? He is a skyscraper. Bo Collins is a physical receiver. He runs good routes. He's tough. He's not afraid to block. And he's got good hands. He's out of Notre Dame. Obviously, you know that. But I'm just getting people caught up to speed who don't know that. He is not a blazer. Okay? Not a burner, a blazer, a speedster. Pick the adjective you like. The point is, he's not going downfield running 4.3s. Okay? 4.4s. That's not him. He does not have that type of explosion. He's more of a possession guy. But he is tough. I think he's had a really good offseason. And quite honestly, Gary, if you just, based on my observations, I do think he's put himself on the Giants' radar at wide receiver. I also think, though, that the collection of undrafted rookie free agent wide receivers have, in general, put themselves on the radar and have made themselves pretty much all the kinds of guys who would, at the very least, be practice squad candidates. And that's about as far as I'm going to go with it right now because, again, you know, a guy like Collins or any of these other undrafted guys, toughest grades are going to be in the preseason games. You know, Victor Cruz caught 3 touchdown passes in a preseason game against the Jets. That's how he made the team. That one game was the thing that put him over the top and put him on the 53. Up until that Jets preseason game, it was very unlikely he was going to make the 53. But then he exploded with 3 touchdown catches against the Jets, and that solidified. So keep your eyes on Collins. The better he does over the course of the next few weeks, not only in practice, but in the preseason games, because it's a close call with a lot of these undrafted free agents. Again, this collection of receivers is good. There's not a great deal of separation between them. There's not. There is some, and he's on the high end. But can he continue and move that arrow up as he goes into the preseason games? Or is some of the other guys going to pass him? That's what we got to see. I don't know, Gary. Maybe you're a Notre Dame fan. Is that possible? I don't know. Maybe you are. Maybe that's why you brought him up. Or maybe you brought him up because you've seen him at practice. He's good. Or maybe you've just seen all the comments about him over the last week or so. He's done good things. Oh, we got another star. Hey, there you go. It is Big Blue, gifted 1 New York Giants on SI membership. How about that? Oh my. Big Blue had actually messaged me, and let me go here and just thank Big Blue, of course. Big Blue had reached out to me earlier on Twitter tonight, folks. To be full disclosure, he had reached out to me on Twitter tonight, and you know what he told me? He said he was going to have to go out for dinner with his other half, and he had to go and wouldn't be able to join the show until late tonight because Big Blue is one of our loyal followers. And I was very clear that I did not want to be the wedge between him and his other half. And so please, by all means, go. Do what you were asked. Go. The show will always be here on archive. You can go get it on YouTube, later on tonight or tomorrow. Don't want to be the wedge to cause any personal problems, please. I mean, Big Blue, I figure, during the season, on game day, you're probably as focused and as intense as any fans out there, right? So, to watch a show on a Wednesday night during training camp, you better make sure you go to dinner. So hopefully you did. But thank you for coming back, and thank you for the gifting of the account. All right, let's see what else do we have here. I think we got some more here. I got to get in. Boy, I got to go back here because we got a lot of people. I want to go for another 10 minutes. We're closing in. We're over 950. We're doing pretty well tonight. I'd love to see it get to 1,000 by the time we get to sign off. Dave Del Cal. Hey, Paul. Been loving training camp content. Keep up the great work. We appreciate it. I appreciate you, Dave. Thank you very much. It's a labor of love for me. You guys know, the off-season's painful. I just can't wait to get to training camp. Even though it's hot and muggy and sweaty and all that stuff, I still love it. Mysterious One. Do you see Dable add wheel tackling to camp? We had a horrific season tackling last season. He was asked that particular question this week. He was asked, why aren't you doing it? He said, well, we're just starting to put pads on. Too early to consider it. Then he was asked, well, do you not believe in real tackling at training camp? Because you haven't done it before since you've been with the Giants. And Dave said, I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say I don't believe in real tackling. I just said to you, we're not going to do it right now. So I think the door is open on it. Will he do it? I'd say I hedge, but I'm going to say I think the arrow is leaning toward no. Hasn't done it in 3 seasons here. I think there's still a great fear of injuries occurring, which would obviously derail some of the optimism that this team is feeling right now. So I suspect that he won't, but I understand your point, and it's well taken. Believe me. Stephen Goldstein says, is Bellinger odd man out? To be honest with you, I don't think so at all. I know there's been a lot of folks on Twitter speculating or on social media saying, well, he's making X number of dollars. They drafted Fedoni. They love Theo Johnson. Russell Wilson likes Greg Dulcich. They have Manhurts, who is easily the best overall blocker on the unit. So people are saying, well, you could save some money with Bellinger and push him off the team. I don't see that. Myself, Bellinger is a good, steady, solid, reliable, all-around tight end. I think if it were me, he'd be on my 53. I think the Giants staff feels that way too. But again, as Dable and Shane have said time and time again in the last month, there's competition everywhere. So could Bellinger lose a job if all the other tight ends suddenly become spectacular and he doesn't and he gets left behind, I guess it could happen. But right now, the entire tight ends room has played well. They've all done well. All things being equal, I say Bellinger's on my 53. But is it possible he's not on their 53? There is a scenario, I suppose, where that could happen. But, Stephen, I would say right now, it's unlikely. Dave Docal, sounds like most people believe Bo Collins is the last wide receiver in from this group. Would you agree? Dave, are they going to keep 5 or 6? How about this? Here's a question for you. If you're Joe Shane, you're Brian Dable, are you keeping 6 wide receivers? Because that probably means you can't keep 4 tight ends. Are you going to keep 4 running backs? Or are you only going to keep 3? If you're going to keep 6 wide receivers, okay, if you're going to keep 6, that 6th spot is coming from somewhere. They're going to have trouble cutting a tight end. I'm telling you that right now. They're all looking good the entire offseason. They're going to have trouble cutting a tight end. And they're going to have to cut 2 of them. At least. They have 6. What are you going to do at running back? Turbo Miller right now is number 4. Eric Gray, he's banged up, got a knee injury. He's fallen way behind. Turbo Miller is now moved up into that number 4 spot in my estimation. So if you keep 4, I think Turbo makes it. But if you don't keep 4, if you want to keep 3, well, then obviously it's going to be Tracy, Scatterboo, and Singletary. Do you feel comfortable with only 3 running backs on your 53? Maybe you do. But maybe you don't. So the tight ends, the running backs, and the wide receivers easily could be tied together in terms of numbers of slots on the roster. But I go back to what I said about 10 minutes ago. Ford Wheaton is now lost for the season. He was the best punt coverage guy on the team. I don't think that his chair is necessarily going to go to another wide receiver. I think that chair is going to wind up going to a kick coverage guy, whether it's someone inside the roster who steps up and does it, or they've got to go grab somebody. That's my suspicion as I sit here tonight. Could Bo Collins maybe wind up in the next few weeks, show the Giants that he can be a kick coverage guy and do it really, really well? Maybe that's what he's got to do to get that spot. I think they like him. It's hard not to when you watch what he's done. He's had a really nice offseason. It would be hard not to like Bo Collins. But it could be a numbers game with him. I just don't know. Right now, it's too early to tell. He's got another month to go. He's got 3 preseason games to go. Let's see if he can. Who is going to really shine? Who's going to really, really star in those 3 preseason games? This is why I tell people, look at the battles that we're talking about. This is why I say I love the preseason. So many people don't. I do. Because I want to watch these guys in games, just like the coaches do, just like the scouts do, just like the personnel guys do. I want to watch these preseason games. I want to rewind the tape. I want to see who deserves to be on this team. It's important. Mark B says Hudson is a good addition. Keith Still says, how did Darius Alexander look this week? Again, he looks like a rookie. Okay? There's nothing wrong with him looking like a rookie. He's got a lot more positives than negatives to his game. There's no question about that. Brian Dable already mentioned that the other day in his press briefing. Actually, it was yesterday he was asked that. I don't know why there seems to be this. I guess it's negative, right? I guess it's negative. Somebody has put out on the internet, some people have put out on the internet apparently that he hasn't looked very good so far in his rookie camp. I'm sorry, that's not true. It's just not true. He's done some very good things in his rookie camp, and he's done some other things that show he's a rookie. He was a third-round pick, folks. He wasn't picked in the top 5. He wasn't picked in the top 10. He's going to be in the rotation. Let me say that to you. I've already seen enough to know. He will be in the defensive tackle rotation. He will see snaps. He'll be on the 53, which we all know because he was a third-round pick, and he's going to see live snaps this season. I guarantee you that. He will be in the rotation. He will at least, at the very least, be part of a package. And if he earns more than that, God bless. That means his learning curve came quickly, and he will deserve more snaps. I don't understand this debate and this negativism that some people want to throw at this kid. I don't get it. You know, maybe they think he should look like a first-round pick out of the box, even though he was drafted in the 3rd round. You know, wow. All right. Mark B. Carl Banks said Darius is looking good. Well, because Carl Banks has been at practice. Mark B., he's watched, just like I have. Aiden says a fully healthy Graham Gano is a very accurate kicker. No doubt about it. He sure is. P-Dot, do you think, mysterious one, do you think Kafka will call offensive plays this season? It's certainly pointing in that direction. He's called the offensive plays throughout the offseason. It looks as though that's going to be the case this season. But Brian Dable has not made an announcement. The arrows certainly point that way. Okay? Let's see here. Where else are we going? Did I get lost? There we Aiden's back. Who do you think more kickers? Why do you think more kickers are getting hurt these days? They're like robots. They build themselves up from the time they're in high school. You have kicking schools now. You have guys who are going to basically robotic training. They all want to be able to kick 60-yard field goals. It's crazy. The training that they've done for these kickers to specialize the position has been off the charts. And I think maybe that's been a little too much. I don't know. I read one time that scientifically speaking, a physiologist who studies the human body said that it's impossible for the human body, scientifically, to throw a fastball. I believe his number was 110 miles an hour. You know, because we're seeing a lot of guys throw 100 miles an hour these days. I believe he said that it's physically impossible for the human body, the way it's built and attached, and the structure of the materials that make up the arm. I think he said 110 scientifically is the fastest that a human body could throw a fastball. I wonder if we could get that physiologist to examine the human body and tell us how long can a kicker kick a football? What is the human maximum for a field goal? There must be one. If he says there's one for a fastball, physiologically, because of how an arm is built, there's got to be one for a kicker, for a football. How long is the maximum for the human body to kick a field goal? Not what is the longest field goal kicked. Physiologically, scientifically, I'd love to know that answer. Any of you out there, if you're a scientist or you know one, let's see if we can get that out there in public. That'd be a fun thing to learn. All right. Aiden Fink says lots of non-contact injuries too. We got a few more here because it is 9:30. I am going to try to rip through these chats, and then we are going to sign off for the night. We did not get... Oh, wait a minute. My fault. It looks like Big Blue has got us with an audio call. Let me see if we can get him up here. Big Blue, is that you?
Paul, what's happening?
Hey, thanks for calling. How did it go tonight? Was the dinner good?
Listen, I'm going to just say this. You and I are in the same age bracket. I told the wife Wednesdays used to be Prince Spaghetti Day. It's now Paul Dottino evening nights. What more can I say to that?
Oh, my man.
Come on. You got to love it.
I love it. I love it. But I'm afraid she's going to rip the internet wire right out of your home office and probably destroy your computer.
Listen, she knows, it's family, the New York Giants, religion. I won't, what? She's not here right now, so I won't put it in that specific order. But let me just jump in. What are your thoughts so far on Evan Neal?
Evan Neal, to this point, has done everything the coaches have asked. He has looked good. He told us yesterday, this is the first time he's been fully healthy in a long time. It has made a difference for him physically, mentally, and if you listen to the coaches and his teammates and watch what he's done on the field, he seems to have adapted very well to moving back to the guard spot. He's played both left and right during training camp. He seems to have adapted quickly, considering that it's been some years since he played guard at Alabama. Now, the problem is they've only had 2 days in full pads, and it's only been thud practices. So, Big Blue, right now I'd say there's optimism. There is hope. It looks like he's on the right track, but we both know an injury would very, 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 very badly derail him. So let's hope that he does not get hurt. Let's hope that he continues on this path of health and that it allows him to grow and improve. And maybe, just maybe, we were saying on Big Blue Kickoff earlier today, you can't rule out that he might, if the arrow continues to go upwards, he might actually win that starting job sooner rather than later.
Excellent. So 2 final points. So we got to remember Wednesdays is no longer Prince Spaghetti Day. It's Paul Dottino night. What is your vision of watching Scatterbo, and what's the vibe, because you're there, of training camp versus the last 2 seasons? And with that, Paul, I love you. Have a great evening. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Big Blue. Stay well. I appreciate the fact that you called in. See, it's very easy, folks. It's not hard to call in. You don't need to do a video call. We're very, very happy here to we are very, very happy here to take you as an audio call. So thank you. The vibe is like night and day. And that's not just my description. It's the description of people like Emory Hunt from CBS Sports HQ. It's from people like Brian Baldinger, who came to our OTAs earlier in the year and said, wow, you could tell it's different here. See, Phil Simms has been out of practice this week. I told you, slew of veterans, old-time Giants alums have been around. Everybody sees it. They feel it, and they see it. There's a much more energized, much more hopeful, much more optimistic viewpoint that is just filtered through the air. There's no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt. It's there. Now, there was a lot of that after the 2022 playoff win against Minnesota. Even though they lost the following week and got hammered in Philly, going into 2023, there was a lot of this. But the team overall was not as young, and maybe they didn't have the leadership that they have now, and maybe they weren't as talented overall as they are now. And of course, what happened in that season, all kinds of things sidetracked the 2023 season, and they wound up with 6 wins. So, is the vibe good? Yes. But Big Blue, you know as well as I do, and every fan out there, and we busted over 1,000 a while ago, so thank you everybody for coming in tonight. The vibe is really good, and there is a lot of hope, and there is a lot of optimism, and the glass is half full as we speak right now. That doesn't mean it's going to be that way in a month, or 2 months, or 3 months. There's no guarantees. It's like the stock market. There are no guarantees of future results. But what we see right now, if this continues, if the attitude, the leadership, the optimism, and the continuous growth of this team continues on the track that it's on, yeah, like I said before, there's a lot of reasons to believe this team will be competitive past Thanksgiving. That's about the best way I can answer it, Big Blue. I don't know what else I could say. It's only the end of July. I'd love to hit the fast forward button and break out a real crystal ball and tell you how this is all going to play out. I'd love to do that for you, but I can't. Nobody can. All right, Tudo coming back with a bunch of hellos to everybody online. Everybody saying hello to Tudo. Tudo is awesome. He just really is. He loves everybody and loves being a part of the program, and we love having him. We love having him. Big Blue just I'd thrown this up earlier, I guess, asking about the vibe in this year's camp. He just came in on a phone call, so we were able to get that in. Boy, we're already running overtime. I'm going to try to get out of here in the next 5 minutes or so. So let me go through these chats real fast. Queensboro brother, he's one of our guys, or one of our loyal people. He's back in. Says, is there some type of COPEF? COPEF? I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. Oh, competition at center, since Abdul Carter looks like a gladiator against him. Well, Abdul Carter, the reviews on him coming out of the box are ridiculously high. I don't want to get carried away. 2 padded practices, thud only. But boy, is he impressed this entire offseason. Abdul Carter looks like right out of the box, he is going to be an impact player. That's what it looks like. I'm not going to predict that he will be, but that's what it looks like right now. Let's get him into games. Let's see what happens in the preseason. That's going to be a much better test than what we have right now. What we have right now means something, but it doesn't mean a lot. Not yet. So yes, is he giving everybody trouble? Absolutely he is, including JMS. That's to be expected. Queensboro brother upset at his fingers for the typos. It's okay. Ant says, really think Cam Scatterbo was fool's gold going along with most of this year's draft. Fool's gold along with most of this year's draft. So Ant is not believing. Well, Ant, have you been at practice? You know, they have tickets to training camp practices. They're free. If you've been there and you've watched the practices, then at least you have the right to offer an opinion. Whether or not you see things accurately, that's debatable. But you certainly have the right to voice an opinion. If you haven't been to practices and you haven't seen any of these rookies doing anything yet in up close and personal real life eyewitness accounts, then I'm sorry, but the opinion doesn't carry nearly as much weight. You could still have it, but it's not a very weighted opinion. All right. Adverse in perpetuity says, how does Alexander look? We've already talked about him a billion times tonight. Things are looking good for the 3rd round pick. Queensboro brother, typing class in high school. All right, I'm going to let you go, man. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Let's keep going quickly here. I want to try to get to the end of these chats. Let's see here. James O'Keefe says, everyone's talking about Tudo doing so well and saying hi to everybody and being so loyal to the program. Again, we appreciate it. Mysterious One, good luck to Tudo and the rugby team. Absolutely, we always second that. Tavi Mazrahi. I hope I got it right, Tavi. I'm sorry. I know you've been with us too. Tizavon. I apologize. My eyes are half closed. I am so tired, so beaten up from the week. I know there wasn't a practice today, but trust me, I'm shot. Sup, all brand new season and far better than the nation realizes. G-Men. Yeah. You're right. That's because most of the national people haven't been here to see what's going on. That's like a movie reviewer. Really. Folks, quote me on this one. It's like a movie reviewer writing a review without having to see the movie. That's what most of these people are doing. They're giving you the review without having watched the movie. All right. Big Blue, you were the best. Dinner was good. There you go. Way to go, Big Blue. Do what you got to do. Mysterious One says, you are the best, Big Blue. And also adds, thank you so much, Pete. I appreciate your perspective and value your reporting. You are the man. Well, thank you again, and you're the man for sticking with us and spending your time with our program. Fantasy Wire, how would you compare Tracy and Cam so far? You're watching both of them with your eyes. Does one jump out more than the other? They have both had very strong camps. Scatterboo, as you recall, had lower body soreness and did not do very much earlier in the offseason program. Okay? In fact, he even missed one of the training camp days because he was sore. But he's run with explosiveness. He shows great patience. He shows great vision. He can obviously run to daylight, which is a part of his game. He has a second gear, not a third gear. A third gear can take it to the house from anywhere on the field. He can't do that. But what Scatterboo can do is turn a 5 or 10 yard gain into a 25-yard gain. He does have a second gear. He's willing to knock you over and push the pile with power, or he's willing to slash and angle around you and run to daylight and get bigger yardage that way. He's also shown great hands out of the backfield. It's obvious he understands, knows how to catch the ball, and can be very effective in the passing game. There's nothing not to like about Cam Scatterboo. I was desperate for the Giants to draft him. I was thrilled when they got him. He's checked every box. Tyrone Tracy, much more confident and assertive than he was last year. Remember, he's only been a running back for 3 years after being converted from a college wide receiver. You could see it. His vision's better. His patience is better. he has explosiveness. He can turn a short play into a big play. We know he's got terrific hands. No, he definitely has more confidence in himself, and you could see it. So, can I compare the two? No, they're different. They're different backs, but they're two really good backs, and they're looking terrific right now. Personally, I believe Tracy will still be the number one this season, but I think Scatterbo is on a fast track to being the number 2 running back in the Giants depth chart, and Singletary is going to be the number 3. I think that's the way this is going to turn out. Mark B says, Paul, I've seen the clip of TC, Tom Coughlin, at camp giving the team a talk. Always good to see him. Will Parcells show up at camp? What's your relationship with Coach? Number 1, great relationship with Coach Parcells. Great relationship with Coach Tom Coughlin. Parcells has visited on occasion. Coughlin usually visits more than Parcells does. But when either one of them come here, it's like Sinatra walked into the room. Trust me. There's an aura. There's a respect. There's a feeling that a legend has graced you with his presence. It's awesome. And everybody loves it when either Parcells or Coughlin come to the facility. Oh, all right. New York Giants Maven, that's Patty, says, after the show wraps up, check out the Locked On Giants YouTube channel. Exclusive interview with Jalen Hyatt. He's a show-me player for the Giants. Got to step up this year. That ought to be fun to take a look at. And finally, our last couple of comments before we finally sign off. And again, I went a little long here tonight, folks. I appreciate you being with me. Aiden says, I love it. Mysterious One says, thank you. And C. Sanders says, hey, Paul, what happens, in your opinion, if we start 0-4? Well, that's a hypothetical that I don't think anybody at the Giants is willing to talk about right now. I would ask you this. How do they get to 0-4? Is it an ugly 0-4? Or is it an 0-4 with 2 last-second losses on 65-yard field goals? Is it 0-4 on 2 losses in overtime? How do they get there? That's an important part. When I promise you, within reason, that this team will be much more competitive, well, much more competitive could still be 0-4, but with nail-biting games that go down to the wire or go to overtime where the team is fighting like cats and dogs and they just fall short at the end. That's a more competitive team. The definition of more competitive means it's a 4-quarter or overtime fight. That's what more competitive means. So, what happens if they're 0-4? I don't have an answer for that right now because it depends on how it happens. Is it much more competitive, a little more competitive, or are they getting drilled? Like when Minnesota drilled them opening day last season. That wasn't competitive. You give anybody 4 games like that to start the season, it's not going to be pretty. Well, that's all for tonight, folks. We went a little over 145. I wanted to go an hour, was willing to go an hour and a half. Wound up going 145 because you folks kept me going with the chats. We easily went over 1,000 live views tonight. That makes me happy. I like to see that. I'm all about a live program. I really am. I appreciate the fact that, the show goes on YouTube and you guys can always catch it on the archive, and that's fine. And I know that's important to a lot of people. But me, I love doing the live show with you guys. This was an experiment when we started doing this show last year, and I begged Patty, to I want to do it live. I don't want to do a tape show. I want to do a once a week for sure live because I want to interact with the fans. I want them to have an opportunity to participate. I'd love when they give me a phone call. I'd love when they give me a video call. But more than anything else, I want to be live with you guys. And when you plus the live counter to over 1,000 live views like you have again tonight, and you've done multiple times during this off season, that makes it worth it for me to spend my time here with you on the Big Blue Breakdown Live. Well, that'll do it for this edition of the show. Stay tuned to my Twitter page at GiantsWFAN, and we'll get you more information about next week's show when it becomes available. Until then, enjoy. If I get a chance to see you out at training camp, I'll be sure to say hi. Otherwise, that'll do it for this edition of the Big Blue Breakdown Live on the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel and Media Network. I'm Paul Dottino, and we will see you next time. So long, everybody.